Hello, in today's video, I'm going to talk about one ingredient to avoid, and that's mono and diglycerides. Mono and diglycerides is also known as mono and diglycerides fatty acids and can be saturated or unsaturated. They're a combination of monodiglycerides, which can be the bulk of the mix, sometimes consistent of around 90% diglycerides and small amounts of triglycerides. The main sources for producing mono and diglycerides are fatty acids and glycerol, which naturally occur in the fats and oils of animals and vegetables such as vegetable seeds. For instance, common plant sources for fatty acids and glycerol are palm oil, soybean oil, sunflower oil, cottonseed oil, rapeseed oil, and coconut oil. Classified as emulsifiers, monodiglycerides have several types, some being glycerol monopalmitate, glycerol monooleate, glycerol monolaurate, glycerol monostearate, and glycerol monoricinoleate. Its European food additive number is E471. Monodiglycerides is not a natural ingredient. It's a synthetic emulsifier made from chemical manufacturing, whether that be through transesterification, which is reacting an ester with an alcohol, or direct esterification, which is reacting glycerol with fatty acids. With transesterification, further processing can happen to refine monodiglycerides, such as distillation to produce distilled monoglycerides. And monodiglycerides can be produced with other food-grade chemicals such as acetic acid, citric acid, lactic acid, and tartaric acid to produce different types of emulsifiers. Monodiglycerides are a fat that's insoluble in water. It's produced in both liquid and solid form. The liquid form is oily and in a pale yellow to pale brown color. The solid form can either be white flakes, beads, or a powder. You're probably familiar with the name mono and diglycerides. That's because it's a popular ingredient found in a lot of conventional foods. It's often toward the bottom of the ingredient list, but not always. As mentioned, monodiglycerides is an emulsifier. It combines fat with water, preventing separation. It also has other benefits such as extending a product's shelf life, improving volume and texture in baked goods, enhancing flavor, and stabilizing aeration and foam in desserts. It is the emulsifier of choice for many food manufacturers, used about 70% of the time in the United States food industry. Common conventional products that contain monodiglycerides are baked goods such as breads and cakes, margarine, cream and creamers, ice cream, spreads, cheese, chocolate, infant formula, gum, and more. It's difficult to avoid this ingredient due to the variety of processed foods it's found in and how prevalent it's used. So how safe is it to consume monodiglycerides? Well, currently monodiglycerides is approved by the FDA as a safe ingredient, as well as the EFSA and JECFA. They also have no limits on the amount of consumption or use per product. Though safety of this ingredient was reevaluated and studied in 2017 for genotoxicity, carcinogenicity, reproductive and developmental toxicity, and more, it was concluded that the ingredient was still safe for use and consumption. However, the EFSA later stated that if monodiglycerides is manufactured through transesterification using hydrogenated oils and fats, it may increase the amount of trans fatty acids in the ingredient. As many might know, in 2006, the FDA required food manufacturers to list the trans fat content of their food products on the nutrition label. But it's important to note that that requirement only applied to lipids, not emulsifiers. So regardless of the amount of trans fat a particular mono and diglycerides ingredient contains, food manufacturers don't have to include their amount on the nutrition label. In other words, a food can actually contain trans fat through the mono and diglycerides ingredient and still be labeled as being trans fat free, having 0% trans fat when it actually does through the trans fatty acids from the mono and diglycerides ingredient. And trans fat has long been linked to an increased risk of heart disease, stroke, diabetes, as well as inflammation, obesity, high LDL, bad cholesterol levels, and low HDL, good cholesterol levels. Another thing to keep in mind is many different chemicals are often used when producing mono and diglycerides, which can be present in the end product. Some are palm oil mixed with hydrogen and high heat, which develops trans fat, tartaric acid, synthetic lactic acid, ricinols, fatty acids, sodium hydroxide, and more. Though the dangers of long-term consumption of these chemicals haven't been extensively studied, considering what we know about long-term chemical exposure on our health and the fact that these are not natural ingredients that have any nutrients, it's best to assume they are not safe to consume. And with that comes the question, is monodiglycerides safe to consume at all, especially long term? I say no because monodiglycerides is not a natural ingredient that has any health benefits. Though it's approved by the FDA and other food authorities, that doesn't mean that it won't damage your health years down the line with its chemical additives and trans fatty acids. A common theme you may come to find as you research questionable ingredients in processed foods is that an ingredient can get approved for a number of reasons, such as being safe in small doses or having no scientific evidence to prove it's unsafe. But if you know anything about processed foods which contain ingredients like mono and diglycerides, they're addictive. Even if something is safe in small doses, that doesn't mean it will be safe after years of constant consumption. Also, potential trans fats is a concern. Though food manufacturers don't have to list the trans fat in emulsifiers like mono and diglycerides, that doesn't mean they don't exist. At this point, I just assume that if mono and diglycerides are part of the ingredient, that the food product has trans fats. The amount is just unknown. In the end, profits will always triumph over health in the mainstream food industry. It's best to stick to whole foods where the only ingredient is the food itself, purchase organic and natural processed foods from companies and brands you trust, and make your own processed food favorites when you can from scratch. That will eliminate the bulk of these questionable ingredients and any hidden ingredients found in many conventional processed foods. Thank you so much for watching. I hope I was successful in steering you away from this questionable ingredient, mono and diglycerides. If you found this video valuable, please like, comment, and share so others can learn more about mono and diglycerides and avoid this ingredient. Subscribe for more whole food and nutrition videos, and until next time, take care.